Yeah, what up, Sci-Fam? It's your boy Nickel, and today we're gonna look at the 8 steps of digestion. Now, in my science notebook, I was able to fit 6 of these steps on one page, and those had to be continued on a second page. So leave yourself 2 different pages here, blank pages, to complete these 8 different steps. If you fit 6 or less or more on one page, that's fine too. But we are going to learn how our food turns into our poo. So let's start. So imagine a lemon that I slice in half. It's glistening with the acids that make a lemon so sweet and sour. Now, just thinking about this might cause your mouth to start salivating. And if you feel around with your tongue, just below your front teeth on the bottom of your mouth, you'll feel 2 little flaps. And if you feel with your tongue near your back molars, near the back of your mouth, you'll feel 2 more little flaps. These are your salivary glands, which are where your body excretes saliva. And just thinking about a lemon that's being cut in half can cause your mouth to start watering. I know mine is. So before you even eat, saliva is actually released in anticipation. So you haven't even started eating yet, and your body already releases saliva because saliva helps your body break down the food. So the first step of digestion is that saliva is released in anticipation of eating. And then we take a bite of that lemon. And so when we bite it, we're going to then chew our food into a wet lump. Now this first wet lump is called a bolus. So just before you swallow it, you chew up that lemon and it turns into a mush. That mush is a bolus. And already, while that food is in your mouth, enzymes are actually released that are in your saliva. Remember those speed up chemical reactions? And so those are going to start breaking down starches or carbohydrates that are in our mouth. So carbohydrates are already starting to be broken down here in the second step of digestion. All right, let's follow that bolus as it travels through our GI, our gastrointestinal tract. So after we chew the food, that bolus, that wet lump of lemon or of food, travels down our esophagus. And then our esophagus is like down in our throat kind of region, and it travels down and down and down into the stomach. Now the stomach is where it lands, and our stomach is actually pretty complex little holding cell. And this holding, it's not a cell, but it's an area, it's like a pocket, a pouch that is made out of some muscle tissues, and it's got some nervous tissue in there as well. But those muscle tissues help our stomach break this bolus down further. So here in the 4th step of digestion, our stomachs, I'm going to do apostrophe S because it belongs to our stomach. Our stomach's muscular walls start punching that bolus left and right and up and down and sideways. So those muscular walls break the bolus into smaller parts. And those smaller parts, or those smaller bits now, it turns into like a sludge. And this sludge is called a chyme, C-H-Y-M-E, chyme. And this chyme then can move further into our gastrointestinal tract. And as it gets mushed up more and more, it makes it easier for our body to extract the nutrients. Now, while the food, that bolus, gets turned into the chyme, sometimes this can take somewhere around like 3 hours for that to even happen. So the bolus goes down our throat into our stomach, turns into chyme. This chyme is like a sludge, and then it keeps on moving beyond our stomach. Now, at this point is where the hormones come in. Remember, hormones, yes, they do control puberty and fertility and growth, like hair growth and growth of our limbs and such. But hormones also help us digest food. So in the 5th step here, hormones are going to trigger the release of more enzymes. Remember those speed up chemical reactions? And also some acids, because these acids will help break our chyme down even further. So hormones are going to trigger the release of enzymes and acids to right now break down our proteins. Remember, our carbohydrates were broken down or started to be broken down in our mouth. Well, it's not till the fifth step that proteins now start to get broken down, and that's controlled by our hormones. Now, not only our proteins are being broken down, but hormones are also going to trigger our pancreas. Remember that trio of organs? Our pancreas, our gallbladder. There's 2 L's in gallbladder. And our liver to release those digestive juices. Remember, like bile? And bile, yep, that's right, I said it. Bile is actually going to now start digesting our fats. So in the fifth step of digestion, our proteins and fats now are going to get digested. But remember, our carbohydrates were digested immediately in our mouth, or at least starting to be digested in our mouth. Okay, so those hormones start to break down our proteins and our fats, and then that chyme, that sludge, continues down into our small intestine. And so our small intestine breaks down the chyme, or it breaks the chyme into even smaller nutrient pieces. So our small intestine breaks down chyme into smaller nutrient pieces. Even smaller than the chyme, these now are what we would know as monomers. So mono means one or singular, so we're going to break down our food into its most singular nutrient pieces. And so if we look at the different nutrients we can eat fats, we can eat proteins, and we also eat carbohydrates. Now these are what we call macromolecules because they're large molecules. And so if we break them down into their monomers, fats get broken down into their smallest little pieces, and these are called fatty acids. If we break down our proteins into really tiny little smaller pieces, monomers, those are now going to be called amino acids. And carbohydrates are going to break the trend. They're not called acids. Carbohydrates are broken down into their smallest little itsy bitty pieces, and this is what we call glucose, or you might know it better as a type of sugar. Okay. Well, like I said, my last 2 pages, or my last 2 steps are on a separate page. So wherever you need to turn the page to add the last steps, wherever that was, make sure you add a little mini title to your page that says the 8 steps of digestion continued. Okay, anyway, after the 6th step, after those nutrients get the chyme, nutrient chyme gets broken down into smaller pieces, monomers into monomers, then it's going to keep moving through our GI tract, and there's these little tiny finger things, and they're little tiny, yeah, they're microscopic, and so we call those microvilli, and the microvilli now are going to absorb nutrients. Because it's in its smallest little pieces, we call those now our nutrients, and the microvilli can absorb those and transfer them into our blood. And our blood then can transfer our nutrients to our tissues. And remember, tissues are made out of cells. Tissues are what make up our organs and make up our body. Yeah, we learned about that. Okay, well, guess what? All that left over then, the stuff that's not transferred into your blood, that's stuff called fiber. That goes on through. What else goes on through? Water goes on through. And also dead cells. So, we got to get rid of those dead cells. Somehow, our body's not going to take those back up into our blood to deliver to our tissues. So our leftover fiber, water, and dead cells go into our large intestine, which this is also known as your colon. Okay, well, at this stage, that water moves through, and we don't really want to get rid of too much water because, we don't want to get dehydrated. But also, we want to make sure that the stuff that we're getting rid of through our gastrointestinal tract is kind of dry. We don't want to get rid of a bunch of liquidy stuff. So we're going to absorb the excess water. So the excess water here in the 7th step is absorbed. Now, we've come here to the end of the gastrointestinal tract and the end of the 8 steps of the digestive system. And in this step, that lump is now dry. So a dry lump, aka your stool, moves into your rectum, where it then begins to expand and expand and expand until it triggers your body to P-O-O-P, to poop. And there you have it. That's the story of your lemon chew turning into your poo. And now you know how you get the food into nutrients and everything else, which then goes into becoming your poop. Okay, now you know. And I will see you later.